Kia koto, welcome. I realised when I was uploading the videos the other day, I got the wrong day on Tuesday. Anyway, today is day 29 of Rahui lockdown. I hope you're doing okay, and I just rather touched by some of the people that I have seen that are watching this have let me know either with a personal message and so forth. So I very touched to those people in Seattle. They know who they are. Hello. Ara Hanui. So taking a moment to look around your space, to notice where you are in the world, where you are in your bubble. And if you like, bringing your awareness to notice that you're breathing, that your breath is with you. Comes and goes, ebbs and flows, and it is always there. So bringing your awareness to notice that you're breathing, that your breath is with you. Then in your own time, perhaps bring your awareness to notice where you make contact with the ground. So you might do that by looking, maybe moving your foot, or if you're seated in a chair, perhaps lifting and lowering your foot, maybe moving. Where you make contact with Papatuanuku, the ground, Mother Earth. In your own time, finding your way to your expression of either seated or standing moanga, standing mountain, seated mountain. Maybe bending and softening your legs or knees, maybe moving your knees. Then if you're interested, bringing your torso in line with your ankles. If you're seated, maybe your shoulders over your seat, perhaps standing or sitting up tall and breathing. And if you're interested, possibly bringing your head to balance on your shoulders. If you like, turning your hands out. Perhaps standing for a moment in your expression of standing or seated moana. So from here, I'm going to offer the opportunity to move to the ground, to standing, then to your abdomen, to finish the practice on your back. So if you're seated, you might want to experiment with lengthening your front torso and looking up, maybe curling your spine, tucking your chin and looking down. And those two movements, you're welcome to put them into your own rhythm. Maybe looking up, perhaps looking down and breathing. If you're on all fours, you might like to notice where you place your hands, where you feel stable, perhaps lifting and lowering your knees. In your own time, maybe dipping your spine, lifting your chin and looking up. And when you're ready, possibly tucking your chin, curling your spine and looking down. If you like, exploring cats and cows. If it's of interest to you, perhaps bringing your awareness to notice that you're breathing and possibly coordinating your breath with your movement. So it's always a choice. So maybe breathing in as you move in one direction and perhaps breathing out as you move in the opposite direction. In your own time, maybe finding your way to resting. So if you're seated, it might be with your elbows on your knees and your forehead in your hands. Or if you're on your mat, it could be sitting back on your ankles and maybe resting your forehead on your hands. You might choose to have your knees together or apart. It's your choice. This is your practice. Another option for this form, which is sometimes called child form, could be to extend your arms. So it's a choice. If you're not sure, you might want to try it, see if it works for you, maybe choosing how you want to be. Then in your own time, perhaps exploring a lunge. If you like, moving to kneeling and possibly stepping one foot in front. You may like to bring your hands to your knees or maybe the floor. Or perhaps moving, knowing you can always move in the form. If you are seated, what you may like to do is move the side of your chair and possibly dropping your knee. If you like, bring your hands to your side, maybe extending your arm or arms and breathing. Exploring your lunge. Maybe moving and in your own time, perhaps being guided by your body, finding your way to explore this on your other side, maybe turning around, perhaps dropping your knee, arranging your arms in a way that's useful for you. And which knee did I have? There we go. So if you're on your mat, possibly stepping forward with your opposite foot and breathing. So you might have your hand on your knee, on the floor, maybe out in front. You might be moving. And breathing. And in your own time, finding your way back to your neutral, possibly sitting back on your ankles, maybe resting your forehead on your hands and breathing. Knowing you're allowed to move in resting form. There's no requirement to be still. And when you're ready, maybe moving back onto all fours, perhaps experimenting with lifting and lowering your leg. So how much you lift and lower is up to you. That's one option. Another option could be to lift and lower your arm. Choosing how much to lift and lower. Or possibly lifting and lowering your arm and leg. You might feel sensation through your abdomen. If you're on your chair, you may like to experiment with lifting and lowering your arm. So how much you lift and lower is up to you. Possibly lifting and lowering your leg. Or if you like, lifting and lowering both. Maybe lifting and lowering. Finding your way to neutral in your own time, possibly sitting back on your ankles, maybe resting your forehead on your hands, or if it's of interest to you, maybe extending your arm. If you like, bringing your awareness to notice where you make contact with the ground. Perhaps looking, maybe moving, and breathing. In your own time, maybe moving to explore the downward dog. So if you're on all fours, you might like to bring your awareness to notice where you place your hands, where you place your knees. Then if you like, tucking your toes, maybe lifting and lowering your knees. That may be your variation, or perhaps lifting and lowering both knees. If it's available, possibly lifting your torso. You're welcome to have your knees bent and possibly lifting and lowering your heels. There is no requirement to have your heels on the ground. And at any time you can move in and out of the form. And if you're seated, what you may like to do is extend your legs, possibly raising your arms and breathing. So that is one option. Another option could be to bring your hands to the back of your chair. And if you like, walking away and leaning forward. If you're interested, perhaps lifting and lowering your heels. You might feel some sensation through your arm and torso, maybe sensation in your legs, or possibly not at all. Always knowing that it's quite normal not to feel sensation. And in your own time, finding your way back to your resting form in breathing. If you like, bringing your awareness to notice the sensation of your breath. It might be fast or slow, bumpy or smooth. Hot or cold. If you like, bringing your awareness to notice the sensation of your breath. In your own time. Yes, maybe exploring a toe stress. Sometimes I try to avoid this one. So if you like, sitting back on your ankles, or maybe coming to all fours. Perhaps moving your hands towards your knees, tucking your toes. If it's available, maybe sitting back on your ankles and breathing. At any time, you can move in and out of the form. If you're seated on your chair, What you may like to do is to lift your heels and possibly leaning forward, pressing your hands on your knees, maybe pressing your toes into the ground and breathing. Maybe moving in and out of your form in your own time. And guiding yourself back to your neutral, possibly sitting back on your ankles, maybe resting your forehead on your hands. You like extending your arms and breathing. So from here I'm going to offer some standing forms, and do know that these can be explored seated or lying on your mat. So you're welcome to move to standing or seated in whatever way you like. One option could be to come to all fours, maybe tucking your toes, perhaps lifting your torso, and if you like, bringing your hands towards your feet. Maybe moving to upright, your expression of standing or seated moanga. Maybe turning your palms out and breathing. If you like, standing tall, perhaps noticing your breath is with you. Just heard a bird run across the roof. Then in your own time, maybe crossing your arms, perhaps bring your hands to your shoulders. Another option could be to bring your hands together. You might feel the sensation of your hands making contact with your shoulders. You do know it's only a possibility. We don't usually feel sensation. In your own time, you may like to switch, maybe bringing your hands to your opposite shoulder, maybe crossing your elbows in the opposite direction. If you're interested, bring your palms together or your hands together and breathing. Noticing your breath is with you. It comes and goes, it ebbs and flows. In your own time, you might want to loosen your arms, perhaps giving your hands a bit of a shake. Maybe shaking your arms. You like bringing your hands into your line of vision. Maybe moving your fingers. Maybe opening and closing your fingers. Or perhaps bringing your hand in contact with your other hand. And breathing. Then in your own time, finding your way back to your neutral, to your expression of seated or standing moanga. And then if you like, lifting and lowering your arms. If you like, you could coordinate your breathing with your movement. So possibly breathing in as you move in one direction and breathing out as you move in another direction. And there is a possibility you might feel sensation in your shoulders. Or you may feel your shoulder blades moving. When you're ready, you may like to move into a forward fold. So one option could be to bring your hands to your upper legs and leaning forward. So that's one option. Another option could be to bring your elbows to your knees, possibly tucking your chin. Another option could be to let your hands or your arms, I'm not quite sure how to say that, to loosen. Maybe allowing your arms to fall towards the ground and breathing. At any time, you can move in and out of your forward fold. If you're seated, maybe bringing your hands to your upper legs, perhaps tucking your chin and leaning forward. If you're interested, you could experiment with moving your chin. Maybe noticing what happens when you move your chin. Or another option could be to bring your hands closer to your feet. So finding your forward fold and breathing. Knowing at any time you're welcome to move in and out of your form. Finding your forward fold, what works for you, and breathing. In your own time, finding your way to upright. And if you like, moving to explore Warrior Two. So if you like, bringing your toes to face the long edge of your mat. Maybe bringing your hands to your torso. Perhaps turning one foot to face the short edge of your mat. And know you can always move in the form, maybe moving to find your stability, perhaps raising your arms and breathing, maybe moving your arms. If it's available, maybe bringing your elbow to your forward facing knee, possibly bringing your arm towards your head and breathing. Finding your way to upright in your own time. So if you're seated, what you may like to do is to step your feet apart, maybe turning one foot to face out from your body. Perhaps raising your arms, if you like, looking over your forward facing hand and breathing. You might feel sensation in your abdomen. You might feel nothing at all. So if you're standing, you're welcome to explore this on your other side. If you're seated, another option could be to bring your elbow to your forward facing knee or your hand to your ankle. Maybe raising your arm. So they're choices. Always knowing that this is your practice. You get to choose how you want to move. So if you like, turning your opposite foot out, maybe raising your arms or perhaps arms at your side, finding your stability and breathing. If it's of interest to you, maybe leaning forward. Guiding yourself back to neutral in your own time. Finding your way to upright in your own time and breathing. If you want to move to explore half moon, I'll offer the seated first actually. What you may like to do is raise your arms and possibly raise your leg. Switching at any time, Knowing how much you raise your arms is up to you. You might feel sensation in your abdomen. Sometimes what we can feel is muscles engaging. If you're standing, what you may like to do is use the support of a chair and possibly leaning forward, lifting your leg, maybe using your chair for support and breathing. At any time, you can switch the wobbles now. Maybe leaning forward, perhaps using the support of your chair, and if you like, lifting your leg. Now you might feel some sensation in your abdomen, maybe your leg, or possibly not at all. Guiding yourself back to your neutral in your own time. And as you find your way to neutral, perhaps finding a way to explore bending your knees. So one option could be to use your chair and maybe experimenting with bending your knees. You might have your feet off the ground, your heels off the ground, on the ground, maybe experimenting with bending your knees. If you're seated, you might like to perhaps bend your knee, maybe using your hand to bring it close to your torso. Or if it's available, maybe lifting both feet off the ground, perhaps bringing your hands around your knees, maybe lifting your knees. And the other choice, if it's available to you, could be to explore your squat. If you like, bringing your elbows towards your knees, perhaps bringing hands on the mat or holding your mat and breathing. So you're welcome to stay here and in your own time, possibly finding your way to seated on your mat. As I say, it's often helpful to have a cushion under your seat. Sometimes that can offer our spine, your spine support. So you may like to have your legs extended, possibly soles of the feet together, or legs crossed. So it's up to you how you want to sit. And if you want to explore a twist, maybe bring your right hand to your left knee and perhaps bringing your left hand behind you. If you like, sitting up tall and possibly looking towards your shoulder. Maybe looking towards your left shoulder and breathing. You may want to experiment with rotating your spine, maybe twisting. Knowing at any time you could switch, perhaps bringing yourself back to your center, maybe bringing your left hand to your right knee and your right hand behind you and sitting up tall. If it's available, maybe bringing your chin to your right shoulder and breathing. Perhaps taking a breath and noticing how it feels in this form. You might feel sensation in your abdomen, or maybe your torso, always knowing it's quite normal to feel nothing at all. Guiding yourself back to your neutral in your own time. So next I'd like to offer the opportunity of extending your legs and perhaps bringing the sole of your foot to the side of your leg. And sometimes it can be useful to bring a cushion to support. You may like to sit upright or possibly leaning forward and breathing. So if you're seated, what you may like to do is to extend your legs, possibly bringing one ankle on top of your other ankle. You may feel sensation in your leg, and you might feel nothing at all. Another option could be to bring your ankle and resting it on your knee. Choosing to sit upright, maybe tucking your chin and leaning forward. If you like being guided by your body, perhaps switching, maybe bringing your foot to your ankle or possibly further up your leg. If you like, bringing a cushion to support that leg and breathing. Possibly leaning forward. Or maybe sitting upright and breathing. You might notice your breath is with you, ebbs and flows, comes and goes. It's always there, always. So in your own time, perhaps finding your way onto your abdomen, perhaps exploring some forms on your abdomen. If you're seated, you might like to extend your legs, maybe raising your arms, perhaps bending your elbows, maybe moving your arms. It's your choice. Another option could be to move your legs. Like bringing your hands down, maybe lifting and lowering both legs. So if you're on your mat today, I'm going to offer a different form. So you're always welcome to bring your elbows under your shoulders and perhaps resting your hands on the ground and breathing. So that's one choice. Another option could be, I can't quite extend my arms here, but another option could be to extend your arms and legs. Then if you like, lifting and lowering your arm. Maybe lifting and lowering your arm and leg. Just move back a little bit. So maybe lifting and lowering your arm, or possibly lifting and lowering your leg. Or if it's available, maybe lifting and lowering both. Then, if you're interested, another choice could be maybe bringing your arms behind you and perhaps lifting your feet. Maybe lifting your head. You might feel sensation or pressure where you make contact with the ground. So if you like, lifting your arms, maybe lifting your feet and breathing. So you get to choose how you want to move. Maybe lifting your leg, perhaps lifting both legs, maybe lifting your arm, maybe lifting both arms. Then in your own time, if you're seated, maybe moving into resting, perhaps resting your forehead on your hands. If you're on your mat, maybe pressing your hands into the ground, possibly finding your way back to child form, possibly sitting back on your ankles if you like, resting your forehead on your hands and breathing. If it's of interest, you may like to extend your arms. It's a choice. You might notice your breath is with you. You might notice nothing at all, and that's perfectly okay. Then in your own time, perhaps finding your way onto your back to explore the last form, moving your knees. So if you're seated, what you may like to do is experiment with moving your knees, maybe individually, perhaps in the same direction. And you might notice a change in pressure where you make contact with the ground. You're always welcome to perhaps put some box or block under your feet, maybe moving your knees and breathing. And if you're on your mat, a few options for moving your knees. One could be to extend your arms, possibly lifting your feet off to the ground and bringing your knees to rest on your side. If you like, looking in the opposite direction and perhaps being guided by your body, finding a time, finding the right time for you to move your knees through your midline, possibly bringing your knees to rest on your other side, like looking in the opposite direction and breathing. Another option could be to lift your feet off the ground, maybe bringing your hands to your knees and moving your knees, perhaps forward and back, or maybe from one side of your mat to the other side of your mat. Maybe from your left to your right to your left, in your own rhythm. So if you like, moving your knees. And if you are moving your knees, there's a possibility you may notice the change in sensation, perhaps under your torso, where you make contact with the ground, up to Anuku. So when you're ready, perhaps moving to a resting form. It can be any form you like, maybe on your back or your side or chair. If you like, using a rug, maybe covering yourself with a rug, putting a cushion under your head. finding a resting form for you. I'm going to offer a brief body scan exercise, and you're always welcome to tune that out. If you want to follow the places I name or the parts I name, you could take your mind to the part, or you could take your hand to the part, or possibly moving the part. So these are all your choices. Time's ticking by today. So when you're ready, maybe taking a breath, perhaps bringing your awareness to notice where you make contact with the ground, maybe moving, possibly looking. Know you're always welcome to move. If you like, bringing your awareness to notice sensation at your eyebrow center. Sensation at your neck. Sensation in both arms together. Sensation in your neck. Aroha, sensation at your heart center. Sensation in your abdomen. Sensation in the whole of your right leg. Sensation in the whole of your left leg. Sensation in your abdomen. Sensation in the whole of your back torso. Maybe the sensation of where you make contact with the ground or the back of the chair. Sensation at your heart center, Aroha. Sensation in the whole of your right arm. Sensation in the whole of your left arm. Sensation at your heart center. Sensation in your neck. Sensation at your eyebrow center. Sensation in the whole of your body, your entire body. Sensation in all of your body, all together. I'll offer some silence, and then I'll ring the chime, and an opportunity for you to close your practice. So do know there's no hurry to move. And when you do want to move, you may like to wriggle your fingers or toes, perhaps moving to rest on your side. You may like a moment to acknowledge your practice. Maybe acknowledging your purpose for practicing today. Maybe it was to nurture yourself, possibly to connect with yourself. So if you like, taking a moment to acknowledge your practice to yourself. I'd like to acknowledge all of you who practice with me. I'm deeply appreciative of having this opportunity to practice with you, even those that I don't know, who I don't know even here. It offers me a focus, a purpose at this time of lockdown, Rahui. So thank you. Take care and look after yourself and your loved ones in your bubble. I will be back tomorrow. Ka kite anō.